Okay, strap yourselves in because today we're heading into some seriously weird territory. I mean, we're talking CIA altered states of consciousness. Ready for this? It's called the Gateway
You're
Experience.
not kidding, it's out there.
Yeah.
We're digging into this declassified CIA document, all officially titled Analysis and Assessment of Gateway Process. They put this report together for the U.S. Army back in 1983, and it's basically the CIA trying to wrap their heads around this technique developed by the Monroe Institute.
The first time I heard about this whole thing, I was like, wait, the CIA investigated psychic powers? Seriously, how did they even end up on that path? It sounds like some crazy sci-fi plot.
Well, it was the 1980s. Cold War paranoia was at an all-time high. Let's just say the CIA was a little open-minded, looking for any edge they could find.
Makes sense. So before we get lost in the weeds here, how does the document even start to explain all this?
It's actually pretty interesting. They don't just jump right into the gateway experience itself. They kind of set the stage.
Yeah.
They analyze a bunch of different techniques for altering consciousness, things like hypnosis, biofeedback, transcendental meditation, almost like they're building a case.
So they were trying to figure out what all these things had in common first.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, okay, we've got all these seemingly random ways to mess with consciousness, hypnosis, meditation, even this biofeedback thing. What's the common thread? They wanted to understand how and why these altered states could even happen.
Okay, I'm starting to see the method to their madness, kind of. But they didn't just want a general overview, right? Did they actually dig into how these techniques supposedly worked?
Oh, absolutely. Take hypnosis, for example. They were convinced it worked by essentially bypassing those filters in our conscious mind, the ones that keep us grounded in reality. They thought hypnosis went straight past all that, straight to the brain's sensory motor cortex, even the pleasure centers,
So like hot wiring the brain's control panel to get to the good stuff.
basically. Then there's transcendental meditation. They described it as this practice of pulling energy up the spinal cord, and they speculated that it somehow affected the cerebral ventricles and gray matter, all these areas connected to consciousness, right? It's like they were mapping out the brain's energy grid.
And what about biofeedback? I've always been fascinated by that one. It seems so much more like scientific than the others.
Right. It uses all that tech to keep tabs on your body, your heart rate, muscle tension, even your brain waves. And the report makes a big deal about how that feedback loop helps you consciously control things that usually just happen automatically. Their theory was that mastering your internal systems, like that, it could be the key to unlocking the right hemisphere of the brain, the one that's all about creativity, intuition, all those altered states.
Now that is where things get really interesting to me. The document keeps hammering on about how important the right brain is for getting to this gateway, like it holds the map or something.
It's like they're saying we need to shift gears completely, ditch our everyday way of thinking if we want to reach this other level of consciousness.
Okay, you've really got me hooked now. So how do we actually do that? How do we flip that switch, tap into the right brain, and find this gateway?
Well, the document puts a lot of stock in this technology, hemisync they call it. Picture this. Sound frequencies, but they're designed to synchronize the two halves of your brain.
Hemisync. So it's like creating this harmony between the two sides. I can practically see my brain waves vibing out in perfect unison.
Yeah.
But what's the point? What actually happens when your brain hemispheres start jamming together like that?
Their report actually cites all these studies suggesting that hemisync isn't just some subjective feeling. They claim it actually causes measurable changes in brainwave patterns, real tangible effects.
So they could actually see it happening.
That's what they claimed. They even compare a mind using hemisync to a laser beam, all focused and efficient. And then they contrast that with our normal everyday consciousness. They say it's like a scattered light bulb, energy going everywhere with no real direction.
Okay, I get it. So instead of mental energy just splattered everywhere, hemisync helps you focus it like a laser beam right at that gateway. I like the imagery. But what did they think was on the other side of the door, so to speak? What were they hoping to achieve with all this brainwave synchronization?
Well, now we're wading into some pretty deep waters, speculation-wise. The document throws out all these potential abilities that hemisync could unlock, and some of them are pretty wild. We're talking out-of-body experiences, accessing different dimensions of reality, even enhanced intuition and straight-up information gathering.
Hold up. Are you saying they thought this could give people psychic powers, like they could predict the future with this hemisync thing?
Let's just say they were leaving no stone unturned, exploring every single possibility. Remember, we're talking about a time when the lines between science and science fiction were a little blurred, right? But while they mention all these potential applications, we got to remember that these were mostly just theories. They didn't necessarily have hard evidence to back them up.
Right, right. Guess I'll hold off on becoming a psychic consultant for now. Still, the whole accessing other dimensions thing is pretty mind-blowing. Did they go into more detail about that at all? What did they even mean by other dimensions?
So, to try and explain this whole concept, the document dives into some hardcore theoretical physics. And I mean hardcore. They actually propose that the universe, at its most fundamental level, is structured like a giant, get this, hologram.
Okay, whoa. A hologram. So instead of physical matter, the universe is more like information, like a cosmic hard drive storing everything that's ever happened or ever will happen.
That's a fantastic way to put it. And what they're suggesting is that when our consciousness is in that laser-focused hemisync state, we can tap into this holographic structure, this universal information network, like plugging your brain into the matrix almost.
Whoa, are you saying that, like, theoretically we could access any information in the universe if we could tap into this holographic structure? The possibilities are endless.
That's definitely the implication, yeah.
Yeah.
And it gets even wilder. They go on to explore this mind-bending concept they call clicking out of time-space.
Clicking out of time-space. Okay, I officially need to back up for a second. What does that even mean in this context?
All right, imagine you're watching a movie, right? You experience it as this linear sequence of events, one frame after the other. But the film itself, with all its frames, it exists outside that linear flow. It's more like a tapestry of moments all happening at once.
Okay, I think I'm following. So clicking out means experiencing all of time, past, present, future, all at the same time. Like stepping outside the timeline altogether.
Exactly. It's like shifting your perspective from the linear movie experience to seeing the entire tapestry of time all at once.
I mean, that's a lot to wrap your head around. But how on earth do they even begin to explain clicking out of time-space in any kind of scientific way? It sounds like pure science fiction to me.
Well, they make this comparison to the world of subatomic particles, which, as I'm sure you know, behave in some pretty weird ways. Like, quantum physics suggests that these particles can exist in multiple states at the same time. Superposition, they call it.
Yeah, whole quantum physics is just a weird thing.
Exactly. So they're basically saying that with hemisync, our consciousness could potentially achieve a similar state of superposition,
Yeah.
freeing itself from the usual constraints of time and space.
So like experiencing time the way a subatomic particle does, existing in multiple moments at once. This document is blowing my mind. Okay, I need a minute to process all that. We've got this universe that might actually be a hologram, this hemisync tech, to like focus our minds into laser beams. And on top of that, we might be able to click out of time and space. It's a lot to take in. But tell me, what was the CIA even hoping to do with all this? What was their end game with the Gateway experience?
Well, they actually lay out a few potential applications in the document, things that really caught their eye. Problem solving is a big one.
So instead of brainstorming in a stuffy office, they just tap into the universal consciousness for answers.
Exactly. And it goes way beyond just finding answers, too. They were really intrigued by this idea of patterning. Basically, they thought you might be able to influence reality itself, manifest outcomes, by messing with the underlying energy patterns.
Wait, are we talking like straight up psychic manifestation here? I focus all my energy on winning the lottery and boom, suddenly I'm a millionaire.
Well, it's not quite that simple. They suggest that by reaching those altered states and with a lot of practice, of course, you might be able to influence the flow of energy in the holographic reality. Think of it like learning a new language, but instead of words, you're manipulating the very fabric of the universe.
Okay, things are starting to get a little matrixy for me.
Yeah.
So we're talking about potentially influencing events in the real world with our minds. I can definitely see why this thing was classified for so long. What other techniques did they talk about, for using this gateway experience?
They had this whole thing about color breathing, which really jumped out at me. Imagine each color vibrating at a different energy frequency within the universal hologram. They theorized that by visualizing certain colors, you could actually manipulate your own energy flow, maybe even mess with the energy around you.
That's wild. It makes you see the world in a whole new light, literally. But they didn't stop at colors, did they? The report mentioned something called an energy bar tool. What in the world is that?
Oh yeah, the energy bar tool. Basically, it's a visualization technique. The report describes it as this multi-purpose tool you can use in that altered state for all sorts of things, from like healing yourself to, and this is where it gets really interesting, remote viewing.
Remote viewing. Okay, that's psychic spying, right? Seeing things happening in other places.
You got it. They thought you could use this energy bar visualization to project your consciousness to a specific location, like astral projection, kind of, and actually gather information from that distant spot.
Okay, now I'm picturing a bunch of government agents in a dark room staring at these glowing energy bars trying to spy on the enemy. This just keeps getting better and better.
It's important to remember, though, that this is all still theoretical. We're talking about concepts, not necessarily like proven techniques. But it does give you a glimpse into the kind of possibilities that the CIA was exploring back then, the lengths they were willing to go to.
No doubt. It's like a peek behind the curtain.
Mhm.
Like, what if there's more to our reality than we realize? What if we all have this untapped potential just waiting to be unlocked? It makes you wonder.
It's a question worth asking, for sure. We may never know for sure about all this, but just the fact that the CIA investigated these ideas, it says a lot about the human desire to understand consciousness, to unlock the mysteries of the universe.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe somewhere buried in that declassified document is a clue, a spark that could lead someone to some incredible discovery. If nothing else, it definitely gives us a lot to think about.
For sure. Sometimes it's the questions we ask, the mysteries we explore that really push us forward.
Well said. We encourage you to check out the source material for yourselves and see what you make of it, what resonates with you, what possibilities spark your imagination. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.